We have a question from Martin. So Martin says, "Hello, Dr. Banda. I'm from South Sudan. I have a bachelor's of pharmacy. I have been a Red Cross volunteer for 7 years, where we supported a community responses to disasters. Work to UNICEF." Okay, so I don't think.
He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a question, but one of the questions you asked me previously, I should mention that there is on our website, the MPH website, a link to something called the Peter Salama Scholarship. And that scholarship is restricted to those from different countries, but
Okay.
South Sudan is one of them. So
Okay.
I'd encourage you to, you don't need to apply, but that is something that you would be considered for simply because you're from South Sudan.
South Sudan. Okay.
Yeah.
So Martin, I guess you just wanted to show us your credentials. I think you are good. You can apply. And there are specific scholarship designed for students from South Sudan. We'll take another question from Michael. Michael says, "Hey, Dr. Banda, does the school have an online MPH which can potentially be funded?"
Yeah, so we have a part-time online program that can be done completely online and anywhere up to 4 years as a maximum. But in terms of funding, our funding is not as strong internally for our part-time program as it is for our full-time program. And that's because most part-time students are working at the same time, so they have a source of income, but sometimes depending on the employer, they might actually pay for some of the tuition as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So Michael or Michelle, I hope you've gotten the response. We'll take one on Facebook. This is from forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name well, Chijundi. He says, "Hi, Dr. Banda. I saw mention of a Dean's Award for MPH students with a good academic performance. Can we get a highlight on what this entails?"
Great. So, as I was mentioning with the scholarships that are awarded by our MPH Scholarship Committee, they have different names. And so the Dean's Scholarship is approximately a 25% scholarship. We have others with different names, but what it entails is that all of your credentials in an application are reviewed by the scholarship committee, and they have the very difficult task of trying to separate out, and assign different awards. But that is just one of the different kinds of awards that are given out.
Okay. Thank you for
And
that.
it's for tuition. It's for tuition only.
Okay. Okay. So, Chijundi, you've as you've rightly heard, so the Dean Scholarship is mainly for tuition, and it's the same process. They rank students and award to those who meet those criteria. We'll take some questions from. Okay, let's take this from Joel. Joel wants to know, what is the structure of the thesis of the Johns Hopkins MPH program?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that question. So it's actually a paper. So we call it the MPH Capstone Project, and it can take very many formats. But it's on the order of 20 pages or so. It's not 200 pages, it's not a thesis, but it should be a paper that is revolving around something you wouldn't have been able to do without developing your new MPH skills. It's under a one-on-one mentoring from a capstone advisor, a faculty advisor, or mentor. And it can range from being a data analysis of a research question written up as a research report and then hopefully subsequently published. It can be a grant proposal, a program evaluation, any number of things, or a combination of those. So it's quite broad, but it is meant to be for you to identify what you'd like to accomplish with new skills and do it in a mentor setting.
Okay, thank you, Joel. I hope you have your answer. I'm letting Professor Maradina West answer all these questions so that I wouldn't have to repeat myself again. So this is from Obed from Facebook. He's asking if the program is open for nurses.
Open for
Nurses. Nurse.
nurses, of
Yeah.
course. Yes. So we do require that a nurse have 2 years of health-related experience as a nurse, but a pharmacist. So we had a question earlier regarding someone with a bachelor of pharmacy. So having that with 2 years of experience does qualify you. And I would say that we have probably about 40% of our student body are physicians, pharmacists, nurses, medical students, veterinarians, so, and then the other 60% are coming from different backgrounds. But maybe I should go ahead and answer Haji's question about the basic qualifications for students, again, to enroll in the MPH.
Mm-hmm.
So it is the 2 years of health-related experience, unless you have an MD or a PhD already. It requires having some quantitative experience on your transcript. We often have to look at physicians and sort of see that that's in the preventive medicine or community medicine course, but also then have biology and a health-related science course. So those are the basic qualifications, along with having a great personal statement and great letters of recommendation.
Mm-hmm. Is there a hard stop, or is there a hard cutoff point for a GPA?
There is not. There is not a hard cutoff point for a grade point average, but what we do want to see, if somebody has had difficult grades, say in the beginning of their studies, and they've improved, that is looked upon favorably, as opposed to having good grades and then decrease over time is not looked upon as favorably.
Okay, all right. So,
and we do not require GREs. We do not require standardized test scores.
Okay, so we don't require GREs. How about IELTS, like language proficiency tests?
We do require either the TOEFL or the IELTS or Duolingo. There are some other, another test too, whose name I forget. But we do require English language proficiency tests, unless the students' language of instruction at their school was English.
Okay. Okay,
so no test is required.
Okay, great. So if you're a student from an English-speaking country, for example, like Ghana or Nigeria, where English is a primary medium of communication or teaching, then you may not need to write any language proficiency test, right?
That's correct. That would be waived.
Okay, all right. So you don't have IELTS to worry about. You don't have GRE to worry about. If your GPA is not in the first class range, and it shows improvements in your progress, you are still a good candidate to apply. Let's take one question from YouTube. This is from Mulukin. It says that it's a great honor to attend this event, and we are fortunate to have Professor Dina West. Yes. What are the names of internal scholarships provided for MPH and the amount of funding? I think this is a very loaded question. Maybe you can just highlight a few.
So Mulukan, this is a little bit of a difficult question, because we do have some internal MPH funds that we give names to. Deans, Reed Frost, those were 2 chairs of epidemiology and biostatistics in the past, and they really are just honorific funding. These are partial funding. The only one that really has full funding is the Sommer Scholarship for tuition as well as stipend, the Peter Salama Scholarship for one scholarship for full tuition, and then we have some endowed scholarships that come from donors who actually then we give their name so that the recipient can acknowledge in the future the family of the donor. But all of these decisions are based on the MPH Scholarship Committee's decisions. They
Okay.
make the awards.
Yeah. So, Mulukin, as you've heard, there are several internal scholarships with different names, and and I mean, it's whatever you awarded is dependent on the decision that the scholarship committee arrives at. So that is that. I think we've answered some of the questions already from Popula. We've answered.
Well, Popula has a new question, and I think Joel asked as well about PhD students and
Yes.
funding. And I would love to describe that because our school made a big change several years ago
Mm-hmm.
in which the number of PhD students is smaller in each department than it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago. But each student gets full tuition funding, each PhD student.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true of each of the 10 departments in our
Okay.
school. Now, the requirements may require a GRE, depending on the program. It may require sometimes personal interviews, so they may have different requirements. But the good news is if you get selected, your tuition funding is covered.
Okay. Thank you so much for highlighting that. Yes, if you're a PhD applicant, once you get in, I think you're guaranteed of full funding, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I think some departments also offer some stipend support for at least 2 years. I know of epidemiology department. So thank you so much for that response. I think we'll take a couple more from LinkedIn, and then we'll call it a day. So, question from Parisa. Parisa wants to know whether you need to contact a potential supervisor before applying for the MPH program.
Oh, excellent question. You do not. And so we try to make this easy, Parisa, in terms of when a full-time student starts, they actually are matched with a member of our faculty MPH executive board for the summer term, along with a group of other students who have similar interests. So they first have a summer advisor, then they have an academic advisor, and then they get to choose their capstone, mentor for their culminating capstone project. So I like to think that each MPH student actually has a team of advisors, starting with the summer, academic, as well as capstone. So I would recommend looking at faculty websites, so that you can approach faculty to discuss, both their research, maybe an RA position or capstone in the future. But it's best to wait to contact those faculty members, and we will make the assignment of the summer advisor for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay. So as you've rightly heard, you don't have to identify an advisor before you enroll in the MPH program. Question from Oluwa Ferrami. Is the MPH program open for biochemists?
Well, so yes, I think so. So if you have a bachelor's degree, for example, in biochemistry, and you have a biology course and a health-related science course and math course, which you probably do, then the real issue would be the 2 years of health-related experience. So that could be maybe you're working in a pharmaceutical company as a biochemist, or you're using your skills in some other health-related way. Then you would be eligible with those 2 years of health-related experience.
Okay. So as you've rightly heard, the program is open to literally everybody who can show the basic requirements. I've sat in class with journalists, lawyers, all sort of people with different backgrounds. So yes, you can apply. We'll take a couple more from LinkedIn. see. Okay, so somebody's asking from Martin, what kind of recommendation letters are required?
Mm. Yes, so thank you, Martin. So we require three, at least three, but typically it's three letters of recommendation. We like to see a mix of academic letters, meaning written, say, at least one letter written by a previous professor who you worked with, in your training, and then also professional letters. So these would be supervisors,
Mhm.
in your current positions. So with those letters, it is important that they know something about you. And so I often recommend that a prospective student share their personal statement with the person who's going to write the letter, as well as maybe also their resume, so that there's a discussion that you have with a letter writer, so that they know what you've been doing since you may have last interacted with them, and also what your goals are for the future. So the best letters are written by people who know something about you, who know your strengths, who know your skills.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We'll take our last question from YouTube. That's from Emmanuel.
Okay.
So Emmanuel says, "Thank you so much for everything you do for prospective applicants. It's really nice having Professor Dina West with us. Do students have opportunities for graduate assistantships, and when?"
So great question, Emmanuel. We have so many synonyms for the same thing. So when we say research assistant, we really mean a graduate, assistant, or a graduate research assistant. So those opportunities that might be working either on a research project or possibly working on a practice project. So it might be working in the community, on a project. Those are available in the summer term. So, if you really see somebody you want to work with, you could email them. But usually, we post the descriptions of their available research assistantships, and you would then look through these listings and contact the faculty, after you arrive in July. So that's more efficient than trying to line up something in advance, because
Mhm.
actually, when you think about it, we're in January right
Yeah.
now. There are going to be very different, research and practice opportunities available in the summer.
Yes, okay. That's true. So, Emmanuel, there are several opportunities, and I, for one, I was working with two different departments, Department of EP and Health Policy and Management, and I started my assistantship position just after summertime. So, I mean, the summertime is not really recommended because you are now getting used to the system, getting to know your colleagues, and it's time for networking and all that. But you can subsequently start searching. Okay, so Martin wants to know academic or professional recommendation for.
So Martin, in terms of three recommendations, it could be two academic and one professional, or one academic and two professional. You can mix and match, but we
Mhm.
usually like to see at least one, from each of those. No relatives, no clergy friends, no, no, so no spouses, so it should be somebody who, knows you from an academic or professional.
Okay, so as if I don't bring recommendation letters from your uncles and family members.
Right.
Uh,
Right, or old family friends, right?
mhm.
None of those.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I think our time is almost up. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for your time and accepting this invitation to share your wisdom with us. Your advice and the information you provided and your experience will be very, very invaluable. Do you have any final thoughts for our prospective applicants and those who have already gained admission to Hopkins?
Yeah, so my advice would be for those who are working for admission, and have not heard yet, or have heard and are still trying to find funding, that we will be having a number of virtual events in addition to the school MPH Admitted Students Day, which one will be virtual and one will be on site. But these will be if you've applied, they will be in your portal, and we'll look forward to seeing you then and have breakout rooms, and you'll be able to talk to MPH program office staff, and probably we'll bring in the the Office of International Services, and possibly financial aid into one of those as well. And for those of you who are thinking about applying, the next cycle actually starts in the middle of August with a deadline of December 1st for the full-time program in 2024.
Okay.
And Jagrup said, what about the cover letter for PhD programs in the UK? I really don't know to get external scholarship for graduate because funding is not available. I don't know so much, sorry, about external scholarships in the UK, but I would look at, I would do a Google search. It's amazing what you can find sometimes on scholarships. You
Yes.
could say, scholarship for someone from a certain country to, study in the UK, graduate study in the UK, and that might allow you to identify some of these external scholarships.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Margina West, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and insight with us.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Vanda. It's so good to see you,
Yeah,
and
good
so
to see
nice
you.
to have the opportunity to interact with all of you, via this medium.
Sure,
So thanks
sure.
so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.